All right, so we're just going to get right into it today. I have a writers group meeting coming up for the sci-fi trilogy that I'm working on. As I said in the last video, I'll say more about that in future videos, I'm sure. So to recap from yesterday's video, which was the first in this series, my name is Matt Ackerson. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a computer science engineer. I work with AI, and I'm also an artist in the sense of being an author and a painter. And basically, if it sounds like it a lot, it's because it is. I just have many interests, and I want to accomplish a lot of things. But part of what I'm looking to kind of sort through as I make these videos is to just openly share with you, hopefully for your benefit, because I know that many of you can relate, wherever you're at in your entrepreneurial um, uh, journey, personally, professionally. Um, so I feel very blessed. I took some risks earlier on in my 20s, and I started a business that became a seven-figure business for the first time in 2021. And due to some personal challenges, the business is not doing as well uh, as I would like it to, mainly because I was kind of focusing on myself for the last 2 years. However, things have improved recently, and I think it's just at a point where I just want to be sharing the journey, especially as we work on coming out with our own AI platform here pretty soon. So AI is something I've thought very deeply about ever since I was a teenager, before any of this was mainstream or as mainstream as it is today, before it was just science fiction. And my sci-fi trilogy is basically a prediction of what I see happening in the future. So in today's relatively brief video, because I have to get going here in a little bit, I want to talk about the idea that as your success goes up, temptation for distraction just increases proportionally. I'm going to talk about, like, on a personal note, because I think maybe what these videos will become is some sort of mix of personal and professional. So I think a lot of people are single today, who are in my age range and older and younger. Um, and as an entrepreneur, just like trying to find that balance, because in the past I've just like turned completely into work to the detriment of having a social life, of having friends, and of just kind of going on continuous dates and really seeking someone who is really right for the long term. And that's what I'm after right now. But this is something that I've heard echoed by other entrepreneurs like Alex Hormozy, for example. So as your success goes up, temptation for distraction just increases proportionally. And recently, on a personal level, I feel like I've been really succeeding in terms of just building a very fun and very enjoyable social life. And I've been, seeing some friends, come, go, others come back, and you kind of like learn like what is the definition. Been learning like what is the definition of a true friend? Who should I be valuing? It's usually the people who value you and are, not just respectful, but they give you perspective, even if they don't always agree, and it's just kind of an exchange of overall good vibes towards growth. And again, it's not always about just agreement. It's about honesty, vulnerability, and just having someone's back, whether you agree or disagree. Even sometimes if there are just political or philosophical disagreements. So some of my closest friends right now, I can predict, or I know that if we were to talk philosophy or politics, we would have some strong disagreements. However, I've really come to value, because I'm someone who I don't cling to opinions, and I'm proud of that on a philosophical sense. I consider myself to be a nothist. That is my philosophy, nothism. In other words, the belief in nothing, absolutely nothing that I'm not willing to let go of if I'm faced with evidence to the contrary. No opinion or belief that I'm not willing to adjust or amend, perhaps with the exception of core values. But even those, you want to kind of reevaluate from time to time, because we are always growing and changing in terms of what we value and our priorities. So um, so I think like nothism is takes some inspiration from objectivism and perhaps from Aristotle a little bit. It's highly based on logic, and it's kind of like constructing, in a symmetrical, logical sense, a view of the world that is hopefully um, closer to what is true and observable and predictable in terms of the future, but also in terms of just helping you to achieve, the highest, most productive, and most meaningful life for yourself. So anyway, getting back to the point, dealing with dating distractions, because I feel like this is, in a big sense, I'm dealing with a situation right now that is very distracting. Today, it's just kind of a wash in terms of productivity, because I'm very angry at this one situation where, because I've been dating around a fair amount recently, just meeting different people, learning a lot about myself and about, what I'm looking for as well. It's very interesting just to see also, like, dating in my 20s versus dating now in my 30s. The difference in terms of, I think it's culture, and how a lot of it is heavily influenced by social media. I don't think anyone would really deny that. It's influenced by social media. It's influenced by other just trends. And what I've noticed is that a lot of people are only looking for shallow connections. And I think from my parents' generation especially, there's like a really stark contrast. I'm not saying that that was necessarily good or like the most optimum way for it to be, but it just kind of feels a little bit weird that that's how it is. And I'm accepting of it more or less, but it's just a little weird because I'm the guy, and I thought it was usually the guy who has commitment issues. But what I've noticed is that there's a very strong pattern of avoidance in a lot of the girls that I have seen, where they will, like, I had one girl, for example, tell me like, "Oh, don't get attached," and I jokingly said back, "You don't get attached. How about that?" Of course, I was being sarcastic, but I noticed that as soon as she started to show vulnerability and open up in terms of her feelings a little bit, she just kind of like disappeared, just ghost. I've been working on myself a lot, and I always try to reflect and understand, like, okay, how can I take responsibility for the situation? Was there something I could have done better? But I think that overall, compared to where I was a year and a half, 2 years ago, even just 6 months ago, I feel very much in a good place, in a place that is a lot more secure. And I'm constantly, again, looking for areas to improve. But what I've seen is, again, this pattern of avoidance. So there was this other girl who I went on multiple dates with, 4 dates. I treated her like absolute gold. I mean, I'm always, maybe you can tell by my demeanor a little bit, I am someone who's respectful. I am genuinely interested in other people. I am sincere and looking for a sincere connection. I'm also patient, though, in terms of, because I know that different people are different. And especially at this time in history, it takes longer, I think, because of this pattern of avoidance for a girl to just open up or whatever. And it's interesting because with this girl in particular, we had 4 fantastic dates, the fourth being the best. She started to finally like loosen up. She admitted, because, God forbid she should say something positive in my direction. She admitted that she liked me, and we went out dancing, we did karaoke, we had food, we went for a walk. We may or may not have done a little bit of psilocybin chocolate, but it's just a little bit. And it was just a very fun experience, building on all of these long, deep conversations that we've been having. But one thing I noticed in one of our final conversations on that last date, she was talking about, just kind of dogma that is in her, apparently, in terms of power dynamics, in terms of man-woman, relationships, and how the man has to be this way, the man has to do this, and the woman has to maintain the power because the woman is the prize. And I'm just like, this sounds a lot like a lot of the social media crap that I've heard. that I think is absolutely poisonous, that I fundamentally take issue with, both in the manosphere and the whatever women's sphere, whatever you want to call it. And I think that it's poisonous because it's a form of what I call counting. So in a relationship, whether it's personal or professional, or just, like a friendship, non-romantic, if you are counting, like, yes, all relationships are in a sense transactional, and people don't like that word, but there is always a give and a take, right? You're not just going to be talking to a wall. Like, everyone wants some reciprocation. However, this person clearly has some deep hangups, and I say this without judgment, although it may sound a little bit judgmental. Trust me, it's not. But this person, I think, has some hangups around intimacy where, she told me a story. She told me a lot of stories about past dates she'd been on for some reason. I'm not sure that was something I should have been so tolerant of, but I just listened. She went on a date with 7 dates with one other guy. And then she was confused when the guy never called her back. And they had never, but she just refused to also kiss him. So she talked to her friend, and her friend said, let's call her Sally. Sally, you're a prude. You went on 7 dates with the guy. He's investing in you in terms of his time and taking you out places. You're a prude. And she laughed about it. But what was interesting is that pattern repeated with me, just in terms of like a different way. Where, for example, I treated her very well. We had great dates, deep conversations, vulnerability, her starting to open. She comes to a party that I throw. She says, okay, I want to keep things private between us. But in terms of letting other people know in our social circle, in our group. And I say, okay, that's cool. And it was my party. I was having some drinks, just relaxing, having fun with my friends. She comes to the party, and it's just kind of like there's distance between us, and I just go with the flow. Yeah, it's all good. But then I noticed, like, she's giving attention and kind of talking one-on-one with some other guy for a significant portion of the party. I'm like, okay, interesting. You want distance from me, but you want to associate for a long time with another guy. Okay. And I'm not, and she even clarified later, like, I'm not attracted or any way, but interesting. So at the end of the party, or when she's leaving at least, I walk her to her car, and later found out too that part of the reason she was leaving was she felt that some of the people at the party were immoral. Especially she was being judgmental, I think, towards the girls at the party, calling the girls like kind of sexually loose and immoral in terms of their behavior. And it wasn't like anyone was stripping or anything, but everyone is different, and it was people just joking around. A couple of the girls were like kissing at one point. It's just for kicks, for attention, whatever, flirting. And again, different people are different. I love how literally diverse, not in the PC sense, but I love how literally diverse my friend group is. Anyway, I walk her to her car. I say goodnight. She says, you walked me to my car. It's like, oh no, I wanna, obviously I want to treat her a little different because I think I'm interested in her. So then I find out 2 days later, because I just have this like sixth sense, and I'm thinking about all the patterns of what she told me, from her past dating relationships. I'm like, she's going to find some reason. And I feel like I'm walking eggshells here. I feel like it's probably something I did or didn't do. And sure enough, come Monday, I get this stupid text message, of course, a text message saying, to continue would be a lie, and we just want different things. So I give her a call, because fuck text messages, right? I give her a call, and I'm like, what's going on? What's this all about? Because we had 4 dates. You agreed that you liked me, and I really enjoyed the 4th date. Watched the sunset as well, dancing, all that, dinner, and more, as I said. So what's going on? Because I really get the impression, Sally, that this doesn't have, I'm pretty self-aware. And I do not believe that this has something to do with me in terms of what I did or didn't do, because I know how well I treated her. I think that this seems to be something on your end based on things that you've told me about your past, where you're just very quick to disqualify a guy. You're in your 30s. You've never had a relationship that was longer than 6 months. You've had a lot of very short-term relationships, and she wasn't even, it wasn't like she was sleeping around either. She's very chaste, which is also kind of something that's unique to her as a person. Um, but I'm just like, you know, what's the story? Because I think that where I would guess this is coming from is fear. Like you're scared of being vulnerable. You're scared of like getting closer to me. Um, and she basically admitted that that was right, but then also said something like, "Oh well, also if you cared about me, you would have texted me or asked me, to text you when I got home to make sure that I was safe." And I was like, "Well, I'd done that on all the past dates. I had a few drinks when I walked you to your car. It was my party that I invited you to." And, you know, what I realized too after thinking about it more, it's just kind of, it was an unspoken, expectation that she had. Clearly I did care, but it wasn't like she didn't even drink. So I wasn't really worried. She lives like, you know, just 15 minutes away. So I wasn't worried really about her getting home safe. And I figured that we would text later the next day anyway. Um, and it's like, this is the reason that you're gonna like find to disqualify me or something, because she disqualified other guys for like similar, just like random things. Like, like you're holding yourself back. Like you can reject me if you want, it's fine. But I'm telling you, like you're holding yourself back from happiness because you talk about you want to have a family, you want to have a husband, you want to have kids, you want to have a good relationship. But it's like, you know, you're acting out of fear. You're acting out of fear of intimacy, both emotional and physical. Because that's something else I realized too. She has a very zero sum mindset. And this is also a little bit unique to her because a lot of girls are sort of the opposite that I've met lately. And they just want to have fun physically and like, but there's a wall with the emotions. And with her, it seems like a wall with the emotions and a wall with the physical. Um, and it's just like, well, you know, I'm patient, so, and I'm dating around, so I'm fine with being patient in terms of any reciprocation. But it's like she tells me this other guy she was talking to at the party was interesting, and I'm like, it's been 4 dates. We've had a number of deep conversations. You haven't really expressed any compliments or anything positive in my direction the whole time. You're clearly interested, and I'm just like, it's just on the, it feels inconsiderate at best and disrespectful at worst to then sort of reject me through a text message after I've invested so much time and been very vulnerable and generous and caring and open and funny and all these other good things, all these other good qualities that I bring to a potential relationship with someone. And you've been coming to my parties as well for, like weeks, if not months before this. And you want to reject me for one quote unquote missed sentence that you did not communicate was an explicit expectation that apparently you need at a party where there was drinking, you were sober, I was not. I still made an effort to value, walk you to your car, say goodnight, show that I care. But you come to my party, you want to be publicly private about what's going on with us, and then give all your attention to some other guy. And yeah, so that's the situation. And the question right now is, do I continue to, do I actually express kind of the second half of that, which is some of the realizations I've had? Do I try to like, I thought about like asking for an apology, but I'm just like, is this just another form of me seeking validation, right? Do I just let it go? I don't know. I don't know what is best at this point, but I know that like, to be treated so dismissively with a freaking text message. And yeah, you make the argument, okay, no one knows anything. But you know what? Give me a phone call. This was something that I had talked about with her, and we had both agreed, hey, text messages are pretty freaking shallow, right? Yeah, they are. Texting is stupid. So the thing in terms of dating as a distraction, the emotion and the whiplash of this person running away, even though she's clearly interested, but she's just struggling with her own hangups around physical and emotional intimacy. And I'm saying I'm willing to be patient. I'm like, look, I'm good. If you need more time on the physical, like, I'm not pushing, all right? Obviously, I'm interested. I am a man, but um, this sort of contradictory double standard behavior and this judgment, and then calling my friends immoral um, on top at a party that you've been attending and you've been attending past parties too, not cool, not okay. So I don't know. Maybe I'm debating whether or not I should say, my piece and recommend that either she acknowledge it, or maybe we should just not see each other anymore, and she should not come to any future events or parties, which are super fun, by the way. So I don't really know, but that's what I'm debating, whether or not to continue going down this emotional rabbit hole, because after a certain point, it's like I just debate, like, what do I have to gain? It's like, on the one hand, it's like living with the ambiguity can be useful. Being tolerant of that is kind of like building a muscle. On the other hand, rejection and learning how to say no, or quote unquote have a boundary, or just say no and reject people, that there's growth and potential usefulness in practicing that too. So I'm not really sure what I'm going to do yet, but that's where I'm at. But that is the reason why today has just been kind of like distracting from business, where I should be focused on talking with my team and giving them guidance, and also writing science fiction for this upcoming writers group that I have in about 35 minutes. So anyway, it just feels like everyone is running around and fucking each other up emotionally and psychologically with this sort of like just avoidant behavior pattern, and no one seems to care. At least some people don't seem to care about like practicing self-awareness, reflecting. And this person told me on the first date, "Oh, I just want to grow. I value self-improvement." It's like, really? Because the last text message she sent me too, it's just like this really kind of mind fuck sort of situation, because I know how her mind works at this point, where she's just really about like, the guy has to pursue me as the girl, and God forbid I should show any interest in having another date. And it's like, you rejected me. You've brought us to this point of like ambiguity. You're kind of lukewarm, leaving the door open clearly because she did reconsider what I said about having another date. And now, because of your zero-sum mindset on relationships and how you, for your personal needs, need to maintain control and the power dynamic and all that bullshit, which is just poison to a relationship and a form of counting long-term, well, yeah, I cannot feel like I respect myself and still be pursuing her at this point. So again, I debate whether or not to say anything at all. Beyond that, sleep routine I think is super important, something I've been working on, just incremental progress there. And I've been starting my day with working out. That has seemed to be paying some dividends a little bit in terms of sleeping better, sleeping more deeply, and not nights when I don't eat late are also super helpful. Been playing a lot of chess as well, but I think that like any way that I slice it, this is a distraction. I don't want to become avoidant like some of the people like her and others who I've dated. And I refuse to treat people this way. I refuse to treat people this way, especially when I am the one who is investing. And what is she doing except showing up, putting up an emotional wall, putting up a physical intimacy wall, and at best is just polite, saying thank you for dinner. Which a lot of dates, like most dates, that's like one thing that I liked about her. Other than, she had this kind of nice energy when she speaks. But I also like that she actually said thank you. Like most girls who I've taken out, and I almost always pay, because that's just how I was raised, and I sort of just, I like it that way too. But, offering to pay is nice. I won't let you, especially on a first date. But that's nice. And saying thank you is also very nice, but most don't say that. But she did. So she's got some good qualities, but man, what a 180. And I wish I could say that it wasn't. I wish I could say that this was not typical, but actually, it's definitely part of this bigger pattern. So anyway, I think that's it for today. I'm gonna try to get back on the horse tomorrow in terms of productivity and work. Um, so I hope this video was interesting or useful. If you have feedback for me in terms of how I can improve in terms of topic or whatever, let me know. I'm kind of using this as uh, a freestyle journal and sharing the journey at the moment. So looking to keep refining, getting better. Give a like or a thumbs up if you enjoyed the topic and information. Thank you. Peace.